Remember when toys were more dangerous than your dad's toolbox? Or maybe you grew up in a time when things we saw as harmless fun would get banned in a heartbeat today. The 1970s were a wild mix of laughter, risk, and pure freedom. A decade when fun often came with sharp edges, clouds of smoke, and zero warning labels. Today we take a look at 10 of the funniest things from the 1970s that are now banned, and why they still make us smile. 1. Candy cigarettes. First on our list is the candy cigarette, a playground status symbol in the 1970s. These slim white sugar sticks, complete with a red tip, made kids feel like mini movie stars or tough guy cowboys. You dangle one from your lips, squint like Clint Eastwood, and strut around thinking you looked 10 times cooler than you were. Parents bought them without a second thought, tossing them into shopping carts alongside bubble gum and jawbreakers. Back then, the focus was on fun, not the future. But the illusion worked a little too well. Studies later revealed that children who played with candy cigarettes were more likely to take up smoking for real. Health advocates pushed back, and by the late 20th century, many states banned them outright. Manufacturers tried to rebrand them as harmless candy sticks, but the telltale red tip still gave away the game. Today, the idea of handing a child a fake cigarette feels outrageous. Yet for those who grew up with them, it's a bittersweet memory. One puff of powdered sugar that captured a time when innocence and imitation went hand in hand. 2. Jarts, lawn darts. Coming in at number 2 are Jarts. Better known as lawn darts, the backyard game that was basically a set of small spears. In the 1970s, they were a summer staple at family cookouts, picnics, and neighborhood gatherings. The concept was simple. Toss the dart into a plastic ring target on the grass. The reality? Each Jart had a heavy metal tip sharp enough to pierce the ground, and unfortunately, people, packaged in bright boxes with smiling families. Jarts were marketed as wholesome fun. Parents handed them to kids without a second thought. And for a while, it was all laughter, burgers on the grill, and the occasional near miss that drew nervous chuckles. But by the late 1980s, the accidents had piled up, thousands of injuries and even a few tragic fatalities. The Consumer Product Safety Commission stepped in, banning their sale and import in the United States. Today, original Jarts sets are sought-after collectibles, tucked away in garages or displayed by nostalgic owners. They're remembered with a strange mix of fondness and disbelief, a reminder of a time when backyard games came with both sunshine and stitches. 3. Clackers. Let's talk about Clackers, the noisy little toy that turned schoolyards into percussion pits in the early 1970s. Two hard acrylic balls hung from a string, with a small ring in the middle for your fingers. The goal was simple: swing them up and down until they smacked together above and below your hand, creating that satisfying clack-clack rhythm. Kids would compete to see who could keep the beat going the longest or pull off the most daring tricks. But there was a hidden danger. The acrylic used for Clackers was brittle, and repeated impact generated both heat and stress. Eventually, one ball could shatter mid-swing, sending sharp shards flying like plastic shrapnel. Eye injuries, bruises, and chipped teeth became common enough that teachers started banning them from classrooms, followed by an official government recall. A safer version appeared later, made from softer materials, but it never captured the same thrill. For those who grew up in the Clacker craze, the danger was part of the fun, a reminder of a time when toys were loud, a little reckless, and totally unforgettable. 4. Smoking on airplanes. Coming in at number 4 is a habit that seems unthinkable today: lighting up a cigarette mid-flight. In the 1970s, airplane cabins were thick with smoke, no matter where you sat. Ashtrays were built into every armrest, and smoking sections were a half-hearted gesture at best. The air circulated everywhere, carrying that unmistakable smell from row 12 straight to row 30. It was all part of the flying experience back then. Passengers dressed up for flights, ordered cocktails, and lit cigarettes as casually as if they were in a lounge. Some airlines even offered complimentary packs as part of the service. Babies, people with asthma, and non-smokers simply endured it. It was just how things were. But as research linked second-hand smoke to serious health risks, public pressure grew. By the mid-1980s, domestic flights began banning smoking in stages, followed later by international routes. Today, The thought of someone sparking up on a plane feels shocking, even dangerous. Still, for those who flew in that era, the memory lingers, smoke curling through the cabin, clinking ice in glasses, and the feeling that air travel was as much about style as it was about getting somewhere. 5. Riding in the back of pickup trucks. Number 5 takes us to a childhood thrill that was pure 1970s freedom, riding in the back of a pickup truck. No seatbelts, no helmets, no safety concerns, just a steel bed, an open sky, and the wind whipping through your hair. Kids would pile in after church, during summer parades, or on the way to the local drive-in, sitting on coolers, toolboxes, or even spare tires. It felt like a roller coaster you didn't have to pay for. You could wave at cars behind you, shout into the wind, or lie back and watch the clouds drift by. Parents thought nothing of it. In fact, it was often a Sunday ritual. But freedom came with risks. Sudden stops, sharp turns, or even a small bump in the road could send passengers tumbling out. Accident reports and hospital visits began to change public opinion. By the 1990s, most states had laws prohibiting minors from riding in the back, though rural areas sometimes still made exceptions. For those who grew up with it, the memory is golden, a mix of danger, laughter, and the sense that the road belonged to you. 6. Cigarette and alcohol vending machines. Coming in at number 6 is something that sounds impossible today: buying cigarettes or beer from a vending machine. No questions asked. In the 1970s, these machines were everywhere: bowling alleys, gas stations, even workplace break rooms. You'd drop in some coins, pull a knob, and out slid a pack of smokes or a cold can of beer. No ID, no cashier, no problem. It wasn't just adults using them either. Teenagers could, and did, buy whatever they wanted, right alongside candy bars and sodas. The convenience was unmatched, but so were the consequences. Underage smoking rates soared, and kids bragged about sneaking beers from machines like they were trophies. Public health campaigns and stricter age laws eventually caught up. By the late 20th century, most cigarette vending machines were either banned outright or moved to controlled areas with ID checks. Beer machines vanished completely in most places. Today, the idea of a beer or cigarette machine sitting next to a snack machine feels surreal. But for those who remember, it was a symbol of a looser, more trusting time, when convenience often came before common sense. 7. Blow-up furniture. Number 7 brings us to one of the most colorful fads of the 1970s: blow-up furniture. Inflatable chairs, sofas, and ottomans made from shiny PVC plastic popped up in bedrooms, dorms, and teen hangouts everywhere. They came in bright neon colors: lime green, hot pink, electric blue, and were cheap enough for any allowance budget. If you were a teenager, owning one meant you were, with it, part of the cool crowd. But they weren't exactly built for comfort or longevity. Sit down too hard, and you'd hear that dreaded pop. Drag them across the floor, and they'd tear. Leave them in the sun and they'd warp into a sticky, chemical-smelling puddle. Worse yet, PVC off-gassing meant you were breathing in fumes every time you lounged in one. By the 1980s, practicality and health concerns deflated the trend, and inflatable furniture was relegated to novelty shops. Still, for those who grew up with one in their bedroom corner, the memory is pure nostalgia, a shiny, squeaky symbol of a decade when style often mattered more than comfort. 8. Burger Chef. Coming in at number 8 is a fast food chain that once gave McDonald's a run for its money: Burger Chef. In the 1970s, it was a family favorite, boasting over 1,000 locations nationwide. Their big innovation? The fun meal. A box with a burger, fries, a drink, and a toy. Years before McDonald's introduced the Happy Meal, families loved the friendly prices, the kid-focused promotions, and the feeling that Burger Chef was their neighborhood spot. But success didn't last. A mix of lawsuits, mismanagement, and fierce competition slowly chipped away at the brand. By the early 1980s, the chain was struggling, and when Hardee's bought them out, the Burger Chef name disappeared almost overnight. Buildings sat abandoned, with faded signs that still sparked memories for anyone who once sat in those orange and brown booths. Today, Burger Chef lives on only in vintage commercials, old photographs, and the taste memories of those lucky enough to have eaten there. For many, it's not just about the food, It's about a time when grabbing a burger felt special, simple, and full of promise. 9. Game show host kissing contestants. Number 9 takes us to the world of 1970s game shows, where personal space was optional. The most famous example? Richard Dawson, host of Family Feud. His signature move was greeting every female contestant, married, single, young, or old, with a kiss, either on the cheek or right on the lips. Studio audiences cheered, contestants blushed, and no one called it strange. At the time, it was considered charming, even classy. But times change. Workplace boundaries, the concept of consent, and public attitudes toward physical contact evolved. What once passed as harmless TV fun began to feel awkward, even inappropriate. By the 1980s and 90s, networks were steering away from on-air displays like Dawson's, and modern game show hosts keep a safe distance. Looking back, it's a strange mix of nostalgia and disbelief, a reminder that television once operated by a very different rulebook. For viewers who grew up in that era, the memory is clear: bright lights, canned applause, and a host who made family entertainment a little more personal than anyone would allow today. 10. Offensive word for intellectual disabilities. Rounding out our list is not an object or a habit, but a word, one that was once everywhere in the 1970s. From sitcom punchlines to classroom chatter, back then, it was tossed around casually to mean silly or stupid, with little thought for the people it actually described: individuals with intellectual disabilities. It appeared in medical documents, school tests, and everyday conversation, often followed by laughter. But for those it targeted, it wasn't funny. It was a label that hurt, limited, and excluded. Advocacy groups like the Special Olympics began pushing back, launching campaigns to end its use and educate the public about its impact. Slowly, the word disappeared from official language, and by the 2000s it was widely recognized as offensive, even considered hate speech in many circles. Today, hearing it on television would spark instant backlash. But in the 1970s, it was just another joke. Looking back, it's a reminder of how language evolves, and how the things we once laughed at can reveal more about the times than we realized back then. So, which of these banned blasts from the past do you remember most? Maybe you had a set of clackers, rode in the back of a pickup, or sat through a smoky airplane ride without thinking twice. Drop a comment below and share your funniest or most unforgettable 1970s memory. We'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more nostalgic journeys into the decades that shaped our lives.